I don't want your last name anymore. My son said it with the flat certainty of a kid repeating someone else's words. Across the table, my ex-wife smiled like she'd won something. Her new husband sat back, grinning, the kind of guy who shines his watch more than he works on his character. I stared at my boy, 10 years old. My blood, my name, my everything. He wouldn't look at me when he said it. Mark says I should take his name. He says yours. Doesn't matter. Mark, the real man she'd married, the one with the boat, the gym pass, and the mouth that never shut up. I could've argued, could've pleaded, could've reminded my son of the nights I read him stories, the Saturdays we spent building model airplanes. But I didn't. I just nodded, reached into my jacket, and pulled out a pen. Fine, I said quietly. Sign. Here. The paper was already in my briefcase, a simple document, one-eyed. Written weeks ago, waiting for this very moment. They all looked confused. For a second, then amused, then eager. My ex-wife laughed, flipping her hair. You actually brought paperwork? God. You're so predictable. Mark laughed, muttering something about finally letting go. My son hesitated. What am I signing? Your choice, I said. If you want a new name, you'll get one. He looked up at Mark, who nodded proudly. So my son picked up the pen and scribbled his name. Careless. Innocent. A kid trying to prove something he didn't understand. I took the paper, folded it neatly, and slipped it back into my jacket. Done, I said. And then I walked out. It's strange the silence after you quit fighting. 4 years I'd fought custody battles, court dates, accusations. Every month. Another lawyer's letter, another insult. Wrapped as a request. She took half the house, half the savings, half the time with my son. But I kept one thing. The family trust. My grandfather built it. A massive estate with property, investments, and inheritance clauses. Tighter than a knot. It wasn't something you could access easily. Not without blood. Not without the name. The name that just got signed away. When the divorce was finalized, she laughed at the clause I refused to budge on. You're pathetic, she said. Still clinging to your family's money. I smiled. Some things are worth protecting. The trust had one rule written decades ago. Only descendants bearing the family name shall inherit. It was old-fashioned, outdated, maybe even harsh. But that night, when my son's pen scratched across that paper, it became my redemption. The lawyer called a week later. I knew he would. He'd been with our family for 40 years, loyal, careful, terrified of mistakes. So, when my ex-wife answered that call, his voice was shaking. Ma'am, do you understand what you just let him sign away? She didn't get it at first. She thought it was a joke. What are you talking about? Your son, the lawyer said, barely steady. By giving up his father's name, he's given up his claim to the trust, the inheritance, the estate, everything. It's all gone. I pictured her face then, confusion first. Then creeping horror. She'd built her whole second life on the fantasy of security, the rich husband, the stable future, the idea that one day when my son turned 18, the estate would fund their luxury. Now it vanished with one signature. She called me that night. Her voice was sharp, frantic. You set us up. I didn't deny it. You made the choice. I just let you sign it. You used our son. No, I said you did. There was silence. Then a sob. She tried to swallow it. Please, can't we undo it? I thought about my son, his small hand holding that pen, his eyes looking to Mark for approval. I thought about the years she'd turned him against me. Made every conversation into a competition I never wanted. I'm afraid it's permanent, I said softly. The trust recognizes lineage by name. No name, no claim. She hung up. A week later, the headlines started to shift. Mark's business hit trouble. A scandal, a frozen account, rumors of fraud. The guy who once called me a loser was now begging investors for mercy. I didn't lift a finger. Didn't need to. I'd already talked to the right people months before. Accountants. Auditors, silent partners. I left subtle breadcrumbs, the kind that take time to grow into consequences. Patience is a sharper tool than rage. My son stopped calling for a while. I didn't chase him. Kids learn truth slowly. It sinks in like cold rain. Then one afternoon, months later, I got a knock on my door. He stood there taller now. Quieter. No Mark, no mother. Dad, he said, hesitating. Mom and Mark, they're fighting. He's leaving. She's broke. I nodded. He looked down. Did you know this would happen? I didn't lie. I knew. Choices have weight. That's all. He swallowed. I want my name back. I smiled sadly. Names aren't toys, son. You can't just grab them when they're convenient. His eyes watered. I'm sorry. And for the first time in years, I believed him. I didn't tell him everything. Not how I'd written that paper months before their wedding. Not how I'd made sure the lawyer was on standby. Not how I'd waited for the day she'd push him to reject me. Because revenge doesn't need witnesses. It needs results. Now, when I drive past the family estate, our estate, I see the gates closed, the land untouched. One day, maybe I'll reopen it. Maybe I'll teach him what the name truly means. But not yet. Not until he understands that legacy isn't about money, it's about loyalty. I still hear his words. Sometimes. I don't want your last name anymore. Funny. That name now holds everything they lost. Some men shout when they're betrayed. I prefer silence. It leaves room for the sound of consequences.